Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here the Watchman. And today on our show, I have with me a gentleman who has some breaking information. I mean, you guys all know him. He's one of the most pathetic researchers that we have out there today. He was introduced to me by L.A. Marzulli at an undisclosed location in Oklahoma when we were at a conference there. And Bill Salus is joining us today. He will be a speaker at the Hear the Watchman conference, March 22nd through the 25th, 2018 in Dallas, Texas, at the Hilton DFW Lakes Executive Conference Center and Hotel. Third year we're going back there, and we're really excited about having Bill with us. Bill, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. I'm looking forward to this conference enormously. LA has shared with me the previous conferences you folks have had, and what a blessing they've been, not only the speakers, but the audiences that have attended them. So I'm so thankful for the invitation this season.
Well, we're looking forward to having you there, brother. Now, listen, you did a teaching the other night, and I mean, I was just blown away when I listened to it. It's available out there on YouTube. Just check Bill Salus YouTube, and you'll find it. But you talked about the Catholic Church in the tribulation. Share with us a little bit about what your research has led you to.
Right. You know, that's an interesting topic, a very concerning topic, because it appears that according to a prophecy, an ancient prophecy in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, that the institution of the Catholic Church will be left behind from a rapture and actually cast in to the tribulation period. The teachings, for those that are going to go on YouTube and look for it, is called The Catholic Church in the Tribulation Period, is what you'll find it on YouTube. It was a lesson I taught at a Calvary Chapel in San Jacinto, California the other night. And it's, you know, I'm trying to warn the Catholics, and I'm trying to bash them. I'm trying to warn them that if we're interpreting this prophecy correctly, the prognosis for them in the future is very grim. And so I make the connection. This is a letter to Thyatira in Revelation chapter 2, verses 18 through 29, 12 verses. 5 of them are just severely condemning, nothing that you'd ever want any pastor to hear. And I'm just trying to make the connection between the letter to Thyatira and its prophetic application to the Catholic Church today, because it says that church of Thyatira will be cast into what is the sickbed of the Great Tribulation, which would be we would normally say that's the second half, the final 3.5 years of the 7-year tribulation period, Mike.
Well, you know, Bill, it's kind of interesting because we talk quite often, you and I and LA and all the other people that are in this for Jesus. We talk about how the church is dead. Are you finding, I mean, what is the reception that you find from Catholics when they hear your teachings on this subject?
Well, with a little bit of sampling we've had, because this is pretty new teaching. I mean, matter of fact, it's only been taught this particular lesson at this level of intensity twice. Once was at that undisclosed location you're talking about in Oklahoma City, which will be on a DVD with the Prophecy Watchers DVD series, but it was not live streamed because it was in a side room. So this other church presentation just the other night at Calvary Chapel 412 Church is the only other time it's really been taught on this level. Now, of course, many people have come forward and made connections, like David Hunt and Michael Gendron and many others, that there's concern about the Catholic Church. Are they the harlot world religion of Revelation 17? Are they is Papal Rome, you know, Mystery Babylon? That's one of the stronger arguments, goes way back throughout time, even when Paul issued that prophecy 2,000 years ago, calling it Mystery Babylon, mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Back then, they realized it was Rome. And throughout the Protestant Reformation, the reformers started thinking, yeah, this is Rome dealing with the Papal Rome, the Vatican. And so we've got a lot of people these days who believe it is the harlot world religion. So they've taught on it, but they've not taught on it with this intensity where I'm actually connecting the letter of Thyatira and their fate in the future, their very grim fate in the future. So I haven't had a lot of receptivity on it from the Catholics. The receptivity we've had on from the evangelicals has been very encouraging, because they're saying they're greatly informed now about the concerns for the Catholic Church. I mean, their teachings, their dogmas are just really not, a lot of them are non-biblical, and they're implemented by popes through papal infallibility, a lot of these things. And then the worship of Mary, that's not biblical. The talk of purgatory, buying indulgences to get out of purgatory. You know, purgatory is not a zip code that's in the Bible, Mike. So, but to actually make a connection that the Catholic Church will be sent into the Great Tribulation. And it says in those verses that not only will they be cast into the sickbed of the tribulation, but it says that God will kill her children. Now that's a church he's speaking to in a letter. And we're not talking about little children. We're talking about, you know, when in the Bible, when it talks about the children of Israel hundreds of times, you know, 99% of those times is approximately talking about the people, the Israelites, you know. So we're talking about, in my estimation, Catholics. Now, the Catholic Church is not looking for a rapture. They're amillennial. And let me read to you what that means from their own, one of their affiliated websites, the Catholic Answers Forum. It says, so in other words, let's put it this way. In the presentation, I do this image where we see the Pope in the Church Age representing the Vatican. And I ask the question, and I hit the slide, and the Pope shoots up in the air as if he's being raptured. And I say, will the Catholic Church go up? Or then I have a slide where he slides over on the timeline into the Great Tribulation, or will they go over? And then I say, if they do go up, the Pope, the Catholic, the cardinals, and the bishops, and the hierarchy, it'll come as a great surprise to them, because they're not, Mike, they're not looking for a rapture of Jesus Christ. They're amillennial. Now, here's what amillennialism means. It is the belief that the prophesied messianic kingdom of Jesus and the Old Testament is being fulfilled now in the church. It comes from the belief that Israel's promises are to be fulfilled in the church. That, of course, that would be the Catholic Church. They believe they're the one true church. This is replacement theology, and we can talk about that in a little bit, Mike. I mean, they actually think that the Catholic Church is fulfilling the promises and prophecies about Israel. But amillennialism is in direct opposition to premillennialism, which believes that Jesus will come back to reign for a 1,000-year kingdom on the earth. So that's in Revelation 20, verse 4, that there'll be a 1,000-year messianic kingdom. So I'm a premillennialist, meaning I believe Jesus is going to come before the millennium. He's going to reign within the millennium for 1,000 years. They're not seeing it that way. And so they're not supposed to get raptured, because if they're fulfilling supposedly the promises that Israel is going to fulfill in that kingdom period, they have to be on the earth to do that. So they consider Israel the children of the promises, and they consider the Catholic Church the children of the fulfillment. So they're not looking for a rapture. When it happens, they won't, they'll basically solidify their stance that, well, we're still the one true church, we're still here. So whatever their arguments will be, whatever that deception will be, that positions them appropriately to be the harlot world religion after the rapture.
Well, you know, Bill, I guess I want to ask you, what led you down this path? What led you to study this fact about the Catholic Church? I mean, my wife is a recovering Catholic, you know, and I was raised in the church of whatever looked best. So I've been Methodist, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, I think once Baptist, whatever looked best in our neighborhood is where my parents took me. But now we're Christians, and we're looking at the Catholic Church, and we're looking at their teachings, and, you know, we're kind of wondering what's really going on. What led you to look into it?
Well, it's interesting, because that's a good question, because my platform was built upon my research in Middle East events. I came out in 2008 with a book called Israelistine, The Ancient Blueprints of the Future Middle East. And it was about a prophecy in Psalm 83 dealing with a concluding Arab-Israeli conflict, and a lot of related prophecies dealing with Israel being relevant today, being rebirthed as fulfillment of prophecy. Matter of fact, we're celebrating the 70-year rebirth of Israel anniversary next year, 2018. Also, the Israeli Defense Forces in existence of Bible prophecy. I found prophecies related to that, dealing with their Arab enemies, which are also in Psalm 83. So I put that book out. I've since come out with another book and upgraded that after the Arab Spring, called Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. Dealt with a book dealing with the nuclear showdown in Iran, an ancient prophecy overlooked, with Elam, dealing with, I believe, Iran's nuclear program today. So why did I get involved in the Catholic Church? Well, I wrote a book called Revelation Road, It came out in 2011. It was a novel and a commentary. And I'm trying to put application to Bible prophecies. How would they affect an American family as they go through the fulfillment of powerful biblical end times prophecies? And it's book one of an end times trilogy, an end time series. So we wrote book one, and now we had book two coming up. So what happens after book one? Well, book one ends with the rapture, ends the church age. What happens to the people who get left behind? That's book two, which is called Apocalypse Road, Revelation for the Final Generation. That takes me now into, well, there's a harlot world religion. That takes me into Mystery Babylon. So now I have to address the issues of who could the harlot world religion be. It turns out that I've been blessed for the past decade with some really good contacts who've done an enormous amount of research on this. Jim Tetlow, he has since passed away, but he wrote a book called Queen of All with Brad Myers and Roger Oakland. Brad Myers is a very dear friend of mine, a Messianic Jew, and he is probably one of the best researchers on the harlot world religion in the world, in my estimation. And so he and I and Jim Tetlow did a book called audio drama called The Coming Global Transformation. All these are available on Kindle, the scripts and that sort of thing. And I relied heavily on Brad's research and my research to delve into the depths of what's really going on with Catholicism. It wasn't really where I was thinking I would go with my ministry, but following this End Times book series, and the last book will take us into the tribulation period. It'll be called Tribulation Road. It took me there. So, and I think it's important for people who study Bible prophecy to have a good overview of all Bible prophecies, even though we may specialize in certain areas, like L.A. Marzulli. If you want to find the front runner on the UFO deception, I mean, you got to go read L.A. Marzulli, go to his blog and get his books, etc. Middle East, Psalm 83, I'm sort of the poster child for Psalm 83. But we still all need it, as L.A. and I do, to have a good overview of the Bible prophecy in general.
Well, it's interesting, Billy. You touch on Iran a little bit. What is really going on today in the world? I mean, mainstream media right now kind of is focused completely on North Korea, and Iran just kind of gets pushed off to the side over here and swept under the carpet. What are your thoughts on Iran? What are you seeing with Iran and what's happening in the world today?
Well, these are both rogue countries working on on nuclear technologies, and North Korea already has that. Iran has very advanced stages of that, but Iran has intercontinental ballistic missiles, which those technologies, it's pretty well understood that North Korea and Iran have become bedfellows, if you will, and they're sharing their technologies, and they're both very dangerous. They both hate America. They both dislike Israel, with Iran with a passion. They call Israel the little Satan. Iran is the elephant in the room in the Middle East. And you're right, the world is focused a lot on North Korea, but Iran always still pops up in the news right now. Matter of fact, there's a lot of concerns with Saudi Arabia and dealing with Iran, because they're Sunni versus Iran being Shiite. So what I try to do with my ministry, Mike, is bring forward not only the secular worldview, which people get inundated with on the news channels, mainstream news, and that sort of thing, but I like people to realize, listen, there's a biblical perspective, a biblical narrative, and a prophetic perspective. So when we talk about Iran, they're dangerous, and they're in Bible prophecy. They're actually the subject of two end times Bible prophecies. Both of them, these prophecies, do specify these events will happen in the latter days. And I believe that we're in those latter days presently. So one of them was written by Jeremiah in chapter 49, around 596 BC. And he was dealing with ancient Elam, that's E-L-A-M. Now his contemporary, about a decade or so later, was Ezekiel, who wrote Ezekiel 38, a prophecy, and that he called them Persia. Now, Iran was Persia, commonly called Persia, until 1935, when they renamed their name to Iran. Now, when you look at a modern day map of Iran, 4/5 of it would be Persia, but hugging the Persian Gulf to the west is ancient Elam, and that's about 1/5 of modern day Iran. So we've got two prophecies. Iran's got double trouble in the end times, and the one with Elam is what I'm watching for, because this appears to be dealing, it's only 6 verses in Jeremiah 49 verses 34 through 39, dealing with, I believe, Iran today, their radical Islamic leadership, how that is angering the Lord for multiple reasons pointed out in the prophecy, and that he will create a disaster because of his fierce anger. And it appears to be a nuclear disaster in the area where Iran's got the Bushehr nuclear reactor, which is loaded with Russian nuclear fuel rods. It's an earthquake-prone zone, and also it's a strategic target to be attacked. And if it is attacked, it could create a nuclear disaster of the magnitude shown in the prophecies of Jeremiah. So I wrote a book on it called Nuclear Showdown in Iran, Revealing the Ancient Prophecy of Elam. I think we need to be watching for that one right on the radar, right up front.
So do you think, though, Bill, I mean, is this something that's coming to a head like right now? I mean, we saw the other day that they had an earthquake in Iran. And I think, what was it? 500 people died, several thousand homeless. I mean, are we right on the cusp of something happening?
Well, I believe so. It depends on, the details of the prophecy, what we see happening in the geopolitical scenario around us at the time. Where do we think we are on the end times timeline? And I think when we marry all those things up together, it looks like we better be watching out for the fulfillment of at least Jeremiah 49 now. When it comes to Bible prophecies, and I'll speak to the earthquake scenario in just a minute, because Iran is 90% seismic as far as a nation, and that nuclear reactor in Bushehr sits where 3 tectonic plates converge, and they have had earthquakes there before, and very troubling, and definitely scaring concerning the what they call the Gulf Cooperative Council across from the Persian Gulf. Those are the Arab states of Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, the UAE, because 2/3 of the world's desalination plants are in those countries. They rely heavily for their potable water purposes on the Persian Gulf. So, earthquakes, strike from Israel or someone on the Bushehr nuclear reactor is something that they're very concerned about. They issued a report, by the way, after an earthquake they had a couple of years ago. The Gulf Cooperative Council did a study, and they said if there was a nuclear disaster from an earthquake or a strike in that Bushehr nuclear reactor, within 15 hours, I believe it was, 40 to 100% of their populations could be extremely adversely affected. 40 to 100%. So they're definitely concerned about Iran's nuclear. So that's why the Sunni states, Saudi Arabia, and those Gulf Cooperative Council countries are very concerned. Matter of fact, they're kind of interested in making friends with Israel now, which is a kind of you'd never think that would be a possibility. And they're trying to also buddy up with Donald Trump and his plans, because we've got an enemy, a common enemy in Iran over there with them. So, but as far as the prophecy, I believe prophecies will sequence themselves in 3 different categories. These unfulfilled prophecies. One of those that could happen now at the present time. Those that could happen next, meaning they've got some preconditions, but they're definitely stage setting. And then we have what I call the last prophecies, like the Antichrist, the Armageddon campaign. Those things still have some fairly significant preconditions, but they're all converging right now. So these things can all happen very quickly once they start to happen, like birth pangs would happen. Once you have one intense action, prophetic prophecy fulfilled, on its heels another bigger one would follow, and you can't stop it. More intense, more frequent.
Bill, you're working on some cutting edge stuff here. I mean, you really are. And that's one of the things I love about you, is that you're always very current with what you're doing. Besides the fact that you'll be at Hear the Watchman in March, what do we see coming down the pipeline from you in the next few months?
Well, I'm working on a couple things. We've got a debate DVD coming out where I debated Joel Richardson, who's a well-noted prophecy researcher who believes that the Antichrist will be a Muslim, Islamic Antichrist. And then he also has recently come out with a book suggesting that Mystery Babylon, the great city, would be Mecca. So our debate was dealing with, is it Mecca or is it Rome? So I took the side of Rome. That debate turned out really good, and we should have that in a DVD format. And I'm also working on another book called The Next Prophecies. I have a book out called The Now Prophecies, those things that could happen at the present time. And then following through, well, what could happen after those? Like Ezekiel 38, that major Gog of Magog invasion where Russia and Iran and Turkey come against little tiny Israel. And so what are those prophecies that could happen after that? What about the harlot world religion, that sort of thing? So those are the things I'm working on, lining up some speaking engagements. Certainly looking forward to seeing you in March.
Well, Bill, so when you're out there now and when you run into people and you're talking to them about this, what do you find the reception is? Are people open to our ideas? Because you and I think on the same plane. Are they open to our ideas, or are you still getting pushback?
When you say our ideas, Mike, let me be clear on this. When are you talking about that we're in the end times, that Bible prophecies are stage setting for fulfillment, that end time signs are converging? Is that what the question is that you're asking me more specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Right. Well, I would say in some ways I'm disappointed, because it goes kind of back to a comment you made earlier, is that, where's the status of the church right now? As far as with respects to their concerns about, prophecy and whether they're out on the end times line. Is the church getting apostate? Well, I would say in America, the church is becoming very apostate. It's becoming very lukewarm. And I caution a lot of the people who study prophecy astutely, remember not to put the American church as the body of Christ per se. I mean, yes, we're part of it, but the Acts 2 model of the church that's really vibrant is going on in Iran. That's the #1 growing evangelical population of the world. China, places in India. I mean, these people are experiencing supernatural encounters from the Lord through dreams, visions, miracles, and healings. Into repressed areas where missionaries can, like Iran, missionaries can scarcely even get in there. And so I say, look, overall, the body of Christ is very vibrant in certain areas, but at large, with American Christianity, it's very concerning, getting very lukewarm and very apostate. And therefore, at a time when Bible prophecy should be, things are happening around us, the stage is being set in an appetite for Bible prophecy should be increasing. It seems to be actually diminishing. And it fears as though it's almost diminished a little more since Donald Trump became the president. In other words, hey, maybe we're okay now. We dodged a bullet. God's back in the house. Donald Trump is his point man for America. And so, we have to be real careful about that, because nothing's changed on the world scene with respect to the dangers that are out there. Matter of fact, things are ratcheting up, like you said, North Korea, Iran, this sort of thing. So I'm a little disappointed in our American brothers and sisters. That's why I'm excited to see conferences like yours where you get a good attendance at all your conferences and that sort of thing, because we need people to realize, hey, there's a lot to be. That's a third of the Bible that people need to hear about. That Bible prophecy is devoted to about a third of the Bible.
Well, Bill, listen, I want to thank you for joining us today on the show. I mean, folks, I can't emphasize enough. You need to follow Bill Salus, Salus. Bill, how do people find you?
Well, thanks, Mike, and it was great to be on your show. My website is the best place to find me, and that is prophecydepot.com. Prophecy Depot, like homedepot.com. And I've got my articles, media appearances, products, DVDs, and books on there. And my contact information is there. So just go to prophecydepot.com.
Well, Bill, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day today to spend with us here on the show. And folks, let's look at it this way. If L.A. Marzulli recommends Bill Salus, he's the real deal. So, Bill, we're looking forward to seeing you March 22nd through the 25th in Dallas, Texas. Folks, also, don't forget, go to our website. If you'd like to go to Israel with my wife, Jeannie, and Pastor Paul Begley, go to our website, click on the Israel Tour button, check it out. That's for the 70th year in Israel there in October. and you can enjoy a wonderful time. You can be baptized in the Jordan River. So just go there and check things out, folks. Bill, again, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Mike. I look forward to seeing you soon.
We'll see you soon. And folks, remember, like we always say here on the Watchman's Report, you can do anything with Jesus in your heart except nothing at all. So get out there, get busy, help Jesus, find Bill, and research what he's teaching. And until I see you next time here on the Watchman's Report, have a blessed day.